6:54.
You are running late, ma'am.
You're running late.
The Kannur time zone is a little bit late, I think so.
Good evening, Ranjit sir.
Good evening, good evening. Yeah, I heard your interactions and all about. I know that you are the regular participant for the Mridula Ma'am session.
Yes, I love her sessions. I look forward to getting sessions from her, sir. How are you doing, sir?
Doing good, ma'am. Doing good, as usual. No,
Sindhu
you will
Rajesh
get
ma'am.
updation every day, so you know that I am alive.
Oh yes, yes. Thank you for updations because people like me, it's such a great help for people like me who don't work very hard. So you keep me on updating like this for lazy people like me.
Last week I saw one data, then I about to call, but in my schedule I missed out. Once I received the data from the headquarters, from your school data, one new name, I found one new name from your school data. So then I thought, I may call to you. Then I missed. Anyway, I'll make a call tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
I think you got it, what I meant.
Ranjit sir, then what about getting started?
Ma'am, we can, shall we wait for 1 or 2 minutes? Or
Yeah,
shall we start?
sure, sir, sure. No problem.
So, today we are following you. So your time zone is our time zone.
I think in my mobile it's 7 o'clock sharp, but in my computer
Yeah,
it's going a bit.
that is the correct time. That's the correct time. Yeah, good evening to you all. If we are ready, we can start. Shuhaib, Vinita ma'am, Shuhaib, Mridula ma'am. Okay, fine. Everyone's time is precious. No? So,
I'm ready.
Fine. So, good evening, one and all us abroad here. Let me welcome each and everyone for yet another fruitful and vibrant session, storytelling. As we know that our country is a rich tradition and a rich heritage for the stories. We are very much familiar about different kind of stories, and our epics, rather than epics, our Jataka stories, Aesop stories, Birbal stories, and different kind of stories. Our nation is fabulous culture and a fabulous tradition about the story. But in a modern education scenario, we missed that storytelling habit. We are going to recollect and we are going to restart today onwards the storytelling as a pedagogy. Today's resource person, one of our family member, Srimati Mridula M.R., Vice Principal, Chinmaya Vidyalaya Kannur, CBSE resource person for English language and literature. On behalf of Central Sahodaya Conclave Kottayam and Council of CBSE Schools of Kerala, welcome Mridula ma'am for the session. Ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
One or two words about our team. As we know that Central Sahodaya Conclave Kottayam, our beloved president, Srimati Marina Sebastian, Principal, Life Valley International School, Pudupalli, Kottayam, and our beloved secretary, Srimati Vinita G. Nair, Principal, Alfin Public School, Kanirapalli, Kottayam. She is already here with us. Let me welcome our Sahodaya Secretary Vinita ma'am to the section. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
And our beloved treasurer, Mr. M. Neelakandan, manager, Sri Shankara Vidyalaya, Vaikam, Kottayam. As we know that Central Sahodaya Conclave organizing online and offline programs and model exams and many other activities through the technical support of Insight E. Insight E is a service provider for the schools regarding teachers assessment, ERP software, regarding holistic progress card and different portfolios. Representing Insight E. Today with us, the Managing Director of Insight E, Mr. Shuhaib. Welcome, Shuhaib, to the session.
Thank you, Ranjit sir.
And dear participants, as we know that you all are in a hectic day and now at home, but we are requesting you can feel to interact with Mridula ma'am, our resource person, through the chat box. If any clarity you need, the question answer session, you can unmute and ask. So we are expecting a vibrant and interactive sessions from the participant side too. And one more way regarding the e-certification, Central Sahodaya Conclave is a registered Sahodaya under CBSE. As we know that our continuous development CDP program, 50 hours training is mandatory. If anyone required e-certificate, we are sharing the e-certificate Google form during the session through the chat box. Please do fill the e-certification form and get certified from our Sahodaya sessions. We are charging rupees 100 for e-certification. And once you submit the e-certification detail, kindly and patiently wait for another 3 or 4 days. Every day we are conducting session. The process of sending e-certification is also a manpower required task. So we are requesting you to patiently wait for 3 or 4 working days for get e-certificate. These are the introductory note from my end. And over to Mridula ma'am. Ma'am, we are ready to listen the stories.
Thank you, sir, for this warm words of welcome. Sir always welcomes me to Central Sahodaya Conclave Kottayam, saying that I'm one of the family. I'm so privileged and glad, and I don't feel any kind of formality need to be followed while I'm with you teachers. So as Sir said, we are all at the end of a hectic day and listening to a session once again. So let us try to make this as interactive, as interesting as possible. So as we were having a very casual interaction, Lynn ma'am was mentioning that this is a new topic, our storytelling in classroom. So let me ask you, how many of you have attended a session on storytelling in classroom by COEs? The COEs, they used to conduct a session. I have handled a few sessions for COE Trivandrum on storytelling as a pedagogy or storytelling in classroom. Sujata ma'am, Sujata ma'am is coming in. So how many of you have heard this as a topic with in relation with education? Just drop me a message in the chat box. How many of you have heard or attended or tried this? Prabha Sebastian, okay, Vinita ma'am, thank you. So you have heard, you have attended, but in a crowd of 189 teachers, only 2 other who have attended or who have heard of or who are trying to do something as storytelling in the classroom, storytelling as a pedagogy. Actually, CBSE has been trying. Fauzia ma'am, you have been trying. Well, good. So, but still, the number is very less, right? The number is very less. Manju, yeah, Manju Matthews ma'am, you have done this or you have heard of this. You're trying to do something about this. So comparatively, this seems to be a very new topic, storytelling in the classroom or storytelling as a pedagogical tool in the classroom. Actually, CBSE has been trying to promote this pedagogical tactic storytelling as a pedagogical tool in the classroom to promote effective teaching, to promote joyful learning, to promote an effective teaching learning transaction. But we have yet to learn. We are not well familiar. We don't know exactly how we can do this. Everybody knows how to tell a story. Everybody knows how to tell a story. Almost all of us have listened to stories. We are telling stories. But is that the same thing happening in the classroom? Is it a normal storytelling happening in the classroom? Is telling a story in the classroom, does it make a pedagogical tool? Just answer my question in the chat box. Today, one fine day, you feel like, okay, today, let me go to my class and tell a story to my students. Does it make storytelling as a pedagogical tool? That's my question. What is the difference between telling a story and telling a story in the classroom using the story as a pedagogical tool? Is that the same? Is there a difference? Could you answer? Could you answer the question in the chat box? Just think about it. Many of us as teachers, sometimes we tell stories to our students. Maybe we want to tell them about value. Huh? Yeah, there is a very visible difference. It's not like simply you feel like telling a story. You tell the story, maybe you want to entertain them. You want to educate them as well. Mainly we tell stories to uh, inculcate a value among students, nurture a value. But when stories are being used as a pedagogical tool in the classroom, they serve a different purpose, or they have a much nobler purpose. So in this session, we are going to see how can we use stories as an effective pedagogical tool in the classroom to make teaching learning a joyful, happy process. They retain interest. Yes, sir, BG Johnson. So we are going to see how they can be used very effectively in our classrooms. Okay, and I hope CBSE will be having, COEs will be having more sessions on this in the coming days, because it's very much connected with competency based education, experiential learning, theater in classroom. So let's see. Now I hope you are able to see my slide, right? The presentation is visible to you, right? I hope it's visible. I will make it a slideshow so that you can see the full. Is the screen visible to you?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes. So, so the learning objectives listed for the session is the participants will be able to use storytelling as an effective pedagogical tool in the classroom. That is our most important objective of the day. Then storytelling as a tool to develop 21st century skills. I think Sujata ma'am is going to handle a session on incorporating 21st century skills in education. Maybe I think tomorrow or day after tomorrow. I have registered myself for that session. So all this go hand in hand. Theater, 21st century skills, storytelling, they all go hand in hand. We cannot actually isolate or separate one from the other. They have to go together in a comprehensive whole. So this is another aim or objective of our day's session. Storytelling to improve comprehension and vocabulary skills. Definitely this is important for the language teachers. Storytelling to make classrooms inclusive and joyful. Recently, we are talking a lot about the importance or the need of being very much inclusive. How can we include all kinds of learners in our classroom? How can we make them feel accepted, welcomed, or feel a part of the majority rather than feeling neglected minority? So, how can we use storytelling to promote inclusion? And definitely, we are talking a lot about happy classrooms. Happy classrooms. I think last Saturday, there was a session, a PRP on happy classrooms. I think it was at Kozhikode. So happy classrooms is a very important concept that is coming into the scenario of education. So definitely storytelling can make our classrooms really happy, because the moment you say, come on, let's tell a story, what do you expect the students to do? What is the first feeling? What is the first feeling? They will be very happy. They will be very happy. So storytelling can be used for all this. Storytelling to develop values and ethics. Storytelling to develop values and ethics. So these are the uh, learning objectives of the session. Now let us proceed. So let us start once again with a question. When and why did human beings begin storytelling? Can you just think of an answer to this? When and why did human beings begin their storytelling? Can you think of an answer to this? Hmm? When did we start telling stories? Actually, that process started even before the origin of language as such. We started telling stories even before the language originated as a formal functioning unit. Hmm? Can you imagine the first human as a storyteller? Can somebody tell me? Just imagine our forefather, first forefather or ancestor telling a story, the situation, the scenario. Just imagine. Who could be that first storytelling? Yes, Rehnat ma'am, can you just tell? Gestures, yes,
From our
Vidisa.
childhood,
No, I'm
Mother.
asking you, the
Mother.
first storyteller,
You need
the
a
first
specific
human.
name, particular name, or a general, like when people
No,
started living in cave.
a general scenario where, as a species, we started
Yeah, it
telling stories.
cavemen when they were
Yes,
living
the
in caves.
cavemen.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
thank
Thank
you,
you so much. Thank you so
thank you, ma'am.
much. So you just imagine the place when our forefathers gathered together around that wildfire, inside a cave or in an open place, and they all wanted, because human beings basically is a one who wants to communicate, who wants to share his feelings and thoughts with his fellow beings. So there are these cave dwellers who sat around a forest fire and wildfire, and they started sharing the adventures of the day. And maybe there was nothing called a language then. Mainly they communicated through gestures or some crude sounds, but definitely they communicated. And whenever we communicate, we always try to add a little bit of extra flavors, right? Extra flavors. We are fond of adding extra flavors to whatever we are trying to narrate. Because we are an imaginative, creative being. Human beings are. Once again, that's a natural instinct of humans. So they added a lot of flavors to whatever they did that day, and everybody listened and everybody contributed to that narrative process. So this could be called our first storytelling sessions. See, ma'am, do you want to say something? Is that why your hand is raised? Lissy Eldos, ma'am? I hope it's a mistake. By mistake, it is a raised hand. So this could be called as our very first experiences of storytelling, listening to stories. And as we progressed as a race, as a species, this instinct to tell as well as to listen to stories also developed with us. It matured, it grew, and we, like everything, we experimented, we improvised, and now we are reaching a place where we are using the stories for n number of purposes are to educate, to entertain, to influence, to inspire, to enlighten. So there are many purposes served by the stories. So once again, slideshow. So this, yeah. So this can be called the earliest form of art. Because this could be the first art form used by human beings. Because human being is a storyteller and listener by birth. And storytelling was the first exchange of ideas and thoughts. And this satisfied the basic human need to communicate with each other. And it also satisfied our imagination and creativity, our stories. And that is why all the great masters the human race has ever seen use stories to convey and communicate their philosophy with the masses. For example, I have given a few masters. There are many. Sri Buddha, Guru Nanak, Jesus Christ. They all used stories. For example, Buddha, we have Jataka tales. Jesus used the parables. Guru Nanak, he also told stories. And not only these, Socrates, almost all the great masters, they have all used stories as a medium to convey their philosophy. It's not because they were not aware of a hi-fi, sophisticated philosophical language. It's because they very well understood the power, the transformative power of stories. And the stories are directly appealing to the heart. That is why stories are very powerful. They directly make an appeal to our heart. They touch the emotions, very subtle, sublime emotions of human mind. And then we go through a process called, English teachers might be knowing the word used by Aristotle. Can somebody, the English teachers, I am looking forward to you. Because Aristotle has used a particular word when he described the different features of play, drama, which was a very popular art form during those days. Greek and Roman dramas are very famous. Aristotle said, when you watch a drama, when you actually experience the feeling of the characters on stage. It is also a story, narrated in another form, in another way, using a different medium. A drama or a play is also a story. So when you watch the play, you experience the feeling of characters and you undergo a process called, what is that process? Can somebody tell me?
Catharsis, ma'am?
Yeah. Yes.
Catharsis.
What is it? Could you repeat? Catharsis. Yes. We go through a process of catharsis, self-purgation, he calls it. Because we watch that play with our heart, not with our head or brain. Our logic, reason, they do not have a place, but emotion and heart. That is why these masters also, they realized these stories can literally change the masses to whom they are addressing. Because these common people, the laymen, they were not very educated, and they were all burdened with the worries and troubles of the day-to-day life. So they won't be interested to listen to a highly philosophical talk. But everybody is interested to listen to a story. Come on, I will tell you a story. They all told this, Jesus especially. I will tell you the story. He always tell. I will tell you a story of a good Samaritan. I will tell you a story. And people were interested. And the stories were self-explanatory. Everybody had the freedom to interpret and understand the story in the way they wanted. Because they never explained the story. They only told the story and left the interpretation with the listener. So the listener also had some work. The story remained with them. So there are many. So in India, when we come to India, We have a very rich tradition of stories. As Ranjit Sir was mentioning as he was introducing the session, are both our epics, Mahabharata and Ramayana. We have something called Katha Sarit Sagar, an ocean of stories. We have this beautiful collection of Vikram Vedal stories. We have our own Panchatantra, Tenali Rama Birbal stories, and many, many, many more. And actually, it is from India comes the first person who used the stories as a pedagogical tool to teach children. Can you name the person? I'm asking specifically asking for the name of a person who can be credited with the credit of we can, yeah. Who's that? Actually, the problem is when my screen is full, when the slideshow is running, I'm not able to see the Zoom meet. That is why I have. Can you just tell me?
Jesus Christ.
No, I'm talking about an Indian who used stories as a pedagogical tool. He used
Vishnu
the
Sharma.
stories.
Vishnu Sharma.
Vishnu Sharma. Yeah, who's that?
The
Who's that,
Panchatantra
sir?
stories, Panchatantra stories, Vishnu Sharma. He used
Exactly,
that method to
exactly.
teach those princes who were not.
Yes, exactly. Very good. Thank you so much. So Vishnu Sharman was actually a poor scholar, and there was a king who had three sons. These three sons were not intelligent enough to understand the entire academics and the art of administration. And somehow the king wanted these princes to learn something and to succeed him. But nobody was able to teach them anything. So finally, he made an announcement in the kingdom asking for a person who is capable of teaching these princes. In double inverted comma, foolish princes. Nowadays, we are not supposed to use such words. Nobody is a fool. Everybody has a different way of understanding things. It's not because you are a fool or I am a fool. It's because I understand something in a different way other than you, and we have to respect and value it. That is what is inclusion is all about. So not labeling somebody as a fool or a stupid, that is not the way of modern education. So Vishnu Sharman made this announcement, and many scholars from the length and the breadth of the country came, but they all failed to teach something to this princess. And Vishnu Sharman was disappointed. This king was disappointed. And then came Vishnu Sharman. The king was not at all impressed by the way he dressed and looked. But somehow the king thought everybody has tried. Now this man also tried. And but Vishnu Sharman called these princes, three princes, and he didn't try to teach them anything. Instead, he told them stories, one story after the other. And finally, and that is called the Panchantantras. Every set of stories was connected with a specific set of skill needed for a king. And there were 5 tantras, and animals were the characters in the story. And the princes listened to all the stories. And by the end, by the time he completed, this princess became judicious, wise, are people who are ready to take up the throne. So this is the power of stories. And the same thing is happening in the 1001 Arabian Nights also. The Sultan who hated the women because his wife and the minister betrayed him. When Shahrazad told him the stories continuously, she continuously told stories on 1001 nights. And by the end of 1001 nights, the Sultan realized this mistake. The Shahrazad didn't make a sermon or a speech. This is not fair, hating the woman for the mistake done by one woman, nothing. She simply told stories. Yes, Mira ma'am. She simply told stories, one story after the other. And she always kept the curiosity of the Sultan high. She always stopped the story on the climax point. and stop the story so that Sultan will let her leave for one more day. That is how you, I hope you are all familiar with the 1001 Arabian Nights. So keeping the curiosity level high is very important. So we have this rich tradition of stories in India, and these many stories, and in every state of India you can find a local tradition of storytelling also. In Bengal, Orissa, we have this wandering singers, the Baul singers, and they were much praised and appreciated by uh, Rabindranath Tagore. And in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, we have many like Villadichan Pattu, Apulluvan Pattu. All these are actually stories or ballads or fables. And every household, we have our own storyteller, our grandparents, right? The grandparents tell stories and children listen to it, and they naturally they inculcate a certain set of values. So now, now we are coming to the storytelling in classroom. Why should we take up storytelling in classroom? That is always our first question. Why? Why should we take up storytelling in classroom? What are the advantages or benefits of taking up storytelling in a classroom? There is a very long list. To trigger creative and critical thinking. So creative and critical thinking is a 21st century skill. I hope Sujata Miss will be elaborating on creative and critical thinking the next day. And we have a PRP coming in for creative and critical thinking hosted by COE Trivandrum in Ernakulam, I think next week. So this is also coming into the scenario. And how can we use stories to inculcate or to incorporate this creative and critical thinking? That is that creative and critical thinking can be developed by telling stories in the classroom. That is one benefit of telling stories, to promote exploration, inquiry, and problem solving. One classic example I will give you, how can we use stories to trigger critical and creative thinking, as well as to make children very good problem solvers. Problem solving is another 21st century skill. So a classic example will be our Vikramaditya Bedal stories. How do they promote this problem solving and critical thinking? How do every Vikramaditya Bedal story ends? Just recall. Vikramaditya somehow fetch Bedal from that tree, and then
With a
Bedal
question, ma'am.
starts telling a story. Come on.
With
Yeah.
a question.
With a question. There
Ends
is
with
a
a question,
question
yeah.
at the end of every
Yeah.
story. Very good. Thank you. There is a question at the end of every story. And then Vikramaditya tries to answer it, right? Vikramaditya tries to answer it. If the answer is wrong, I think Bedal will kill Vikramaditya. If the answer is right, he will run away. But every time
Yes.
Vikramaditya gives the correct answer. By using a certain set of skills, his intelligence, his previous knowledge, he's always able to give the correct answer. There is one of my favorite stories, the story how Vikramaditya answered this question. Bedal once told the story of Pesha Madanda. Pesha Madanda is a very beautiful princess. She's extraordinarily beautiful, and she has taken a vow that she will speak only to the person who is going to marry her. That is why she is called Pesha Madanda. Pesha Madanda, the woman who does not speak, the lady, the girl who does not speak. Pesha Madanda. And then he's waiting for his prospective groom. And Vikramaditya heard of this princess and he wanted to marry. So he somehow reached Pesha Madanda's beautiful palace. And then he informed that I have come to marry. And the princess wanted to test his intelligence in the same way Queen Sheba wanted to test the intelligence of King Solomon. And then she wanted to test the intelligence of Vikramaditya. He wanted his 1,000 maids to be dressed exactly in the same way like her. They all dressed like the uh, princess, everybody, the same kind of costume, jewelry, everything. And they all came to welcome Vikramaditya. And Peshamadanda's maid told Vikramaditya, from among these 1,000, if you can identify the real prince, you can marry her. And there was no way out because everybody looked almost similar. They were all very beautiful. Everybody was dressed in the same kind of attire and jewelry. So there was no way out. Then Vikramaditya quickly thought of a solution. Can you just guess what could be that solution? There are 1,000 women standing in the exact costume and jewelry, and you have to find one real person from among these 1,000. How can you find? Can you think of a solution? You might have heard that King Solomon and Queen Sheba are the bees. Queen Sheba wanted King Solomon to find the real flowers. King Solomon opened the window, the bees came. The Solomon's bees, they are called. We have a book by that name, authored by one of our former judges, Supreme Court judge, I think. The Solomon's Beast, Solomon the Denichtagal. So can you just guess what could be the technique used by Vikramaditya? It's a problem solving. It's a problem. Faced. And you have to solve it. You have to think critically and creatively maybe to solve that problem. So Vikramaditya's idea was this. Everybody was carrying an oil lamp. Okay, every woman was carrying an oil lamp. So he asked Bedal to turn that oil lamp. So Bedal just ran through this woman and he turned the oil lamp and oil was split. And all others, there were maids, they just wiped the oil on their hair or fingers or dress. And but Pesha Madanda, being the royal, she waited for somebody to bring her a piece of cloth or a tissue paper. She waited there. She didn't wipe her oily fingers on her hair or dress because she is not used to doing that. So she waited for a maid to bring with a piece of cloth so that she can wipe her oily fingers. Then Vikramaditya understood, okay, this is the real princess. Then their marriage happened. They lived hereafter, ever after happily. That is the story. So this is how you promote. If you can create stories like this, especially in science, usually you ask questions, no, when sodium and chlorine comes together, what happens? If you can weave a story around sodium, chlorine, or whatever you want, and ask such questions to the students so that they will explore and inquire and come up with an answer. If you can simulate such stories in the classroom, that definitely will promote creative and critical thinking. So this is one example. To make concepts easy and interesting. That is how our great masters, they converted every difficult topics into an easy something by adopting the method of storytelling. To develop empathy and universal outlook, that I will tell you how. To develop good vocabulary and comprehension, the more you listen to stories, the more you acquire your vocabulary, your comprehension becomes better. You become a very quick listener. You are able to comprehend even the messages that goes untold aloud. You are able to get that message the story tries to convey. To make classroom inclusive and fun-filled and joyful, to develop imagination, to develop self-confidence, to develop values, to promote divergent thinking, to promote acceptance and understanding, to connect concepts with emotion. All this can happen when we are able to use storytelling in the classroom. Now, the power of stories. The power of stories. The stories can be used to engage, inspire, influence, and teach. Stories usually promote a multi multi-sensory approach. They listen to the story, they see the teacher right in front of them acting out the story, and they experience the story. The same information is pumped into them using different senses. So whenever you tell stories in a classroom, you're promoting this multi-sensory approach. And the happy hormones, oxytocin and dopamine, all these are called the happy hormones. Whenever you listen to a story, you are happy, and these happy hormones are released. And then immediately when these happy hormones are released, the body, you feel relaxed, happy. The learning is double the speed. The learning happens in a very quick and fast manner. It's an immersive and experiential process. This is what I told you. Experience the story. Rather than listening to a monotonous something, you experience it. And research has proved that even students with lower motivation and weak academic skill work hard in the context of storytelling. Everybody puts in an effort because the message is conveyed in a very uh, accepted medium, that is stories. And now we are moving to the real situation. When are we going to tell stories in the classroom? We can actually, stories can be told in the classroom mainly in three ways. First, before the class. Before the class, as a warm up activity, as a curtain raiser activity, to just to establish that rapport, or to introduce your lesson as a hook. Okay, as the hook. That is one way of telling the story. So, can you give me an example of how can we use stories as a hook? A hook is usually we use it in the context of fishing. We hook the fish. We catch it and we bring it towards us. We attract the fish towards us. So, how stories can be used to attract, to lure the children towards you? So you introduce a concept towards a story, through a story, right? So that is how the stories can be used as a hook. For example, I hope the maths teachers are there in the house. You teach trigonometry, right? Trigonometry, the sine theta, cos theta, tan theta, don't you? You can drop a comment in the chat box. I'm able to see that because I'm back in the meet. Maths teachers in the house, don't you teach trigonometry where we have all these thetas, sine theta, cos theta, tan theta? Right? Is it yes or no? Can you just give me a message in the chat box, maths teachers especially?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So if I ask you to find out a story with which you can introduce this concept of trigonometry, or where trigonometry is actually being used in life, I think that is never being told to the children. They are told to study all the equations and everything, but they are never told where are they going to use it literally. Because I
Yes.
am 40 years old, I have never used the sine theta, cos theta, tan theta in my life. And every child has this confusion, I think. Where am I going to use this? This equation does not make any sense to me until and unless I know where I am going to use this in my real life. So you
Yes,
can
ma'am.
use this story to
We
tell
are
them.
giving.
Yeah. Yeah, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We are giving their applications also along with the questions.
Yeah. Can you give me one example where a story can be told to them so that they are really interested? Oh my God, I can use trigonometry in these many ways in my life.
In order
They
to
become
find height,
excited.
in order to find height of a tree, we can apply trigonometry. There are lots of situations we can connect with
Yes,
trigonometry.
exactly. Thank you, ma'am. So actually, trigonometry is used to measure heights, cartography, architecture, right, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So, but our students are rather bored with trigonometry because, as I said earlier, they don't know where are we going to use it. So, Can we tell the story of Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay? Hmm? Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay are the two people who conquered Mount Everest. They are the first two human beings who conquered Mount Everest, the highest summit on planet Earth. And it's a very adventurous story, especially when it comes to Tenzing Norgay. Because Tenzing Norgay is a Sherpa. He is born into a family of Sherpas where they assist mountaineers to climb Mount Everest. And they call Mount Everest the adobe of the gods, the house of the gods. They worship Mount Everest. And he has assisted many mountaineering groups to climb Mount Everest. And somewhere he started wanting, he started thinking that even I want to climb, even I want to reach the summit. And then he tried to climb Mount Everest with different mountaineers, with different climbers. And there is one time he reached, I think, 500 meters below the summit. But then there was a sudden avalanche, the climate changed, and they had to come all the way down. Just imagine the disappointment it can cause. You have climbed the highest summit on the planet Earth, almost 500 meters below you have reached, and then you are forced into a situation where you have to come down all the way. Then he was affected with pneumonia. He was very sick, and he thought, in this life, I am never able to conquer Mount Everest. It's not meant for me. He gave up all hopes. Then came Edmund Hillary from which nation? Edmund Hillary is from which nation? Hmm? Edmund Hillary is an American? Is he? Hmm? New Zealand. He's from New Zealand. And Hillary was an expert mountaineer. He has climbed, he has conquered almost all the important mountains in Europe. And then he wanted to climb the Mount Everest. And you know, the press once asked Hillary, as he was attempting to climb Mount Everest, why are you so particular about climbing Mount Everest? It's very risky affair. I can cost even your life. Then why do you want to climb Mount Everest? Then Hillary gave an answer, which is very iconic, legendary, we can call it. He said, because it is there. And that was his answer. Because it is there. So I want to climb it. And then Hillary came, he went in search of the expert Sherpa. He wanted the best. And he was not ready to compromise. And he persuaded Norgay to come with him. And together they climbed. They reached a very deceptive spot. It was very dangerous. Just one step next to the summit. And it was very difficult, but somehow they managed, they found a way in which they can cross it. And they reached the top of the Mount Everest. And till this day, neither Hillary nor Norgay revealed who exactly set the foot on the summit. Because that was the promise they made. Because they said it's a team game. We did it together. And whoever, whether it is Norgay, whether it is Hillary, does not make any difference. We will never tell who has exactly set the first food, because we know what happened to the lunar people. The first man to land on the moon is? The first man to land on the moon is?
Neil Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong. Second man? We hardly remember. We hardly remember because he just stepped into the moon maybe within 2 or 3 minutes. But we hardly remember the second person. They didn't want to have the same fate. So they made a promise together. It's always Hillary and Norgay together, not the first person. It's a pair always. So can we use this story and then how trigonometry can be applied? Are the places where Tenzing Norgay and Edmund Hillary might have applied trigonometry? Ma'am, is that possible for you? Because nobody else have climbed the Mount Everest before them. But at many places, they might have wanted the measurements, the height. So how did they find it out? How did they find it out? Because with the help of trigonometry. with the help trigonometry might have helped him. Mountaineers use it all over the world. So don't you think if you use this story, very much inspiring, and if you tell this story and then slowly go to your trigonometry, don't you think your students will be interested to learn trigonometry? Because there is a mountaineer, there is a prospective mountaineer, there is a prospective pilot sitting in front of you, there is a prospective architect sitting in front of you. Then they know, okay, this trigonometry can be used. Don't you think that will be better, ma'am? Math teachers, I'm asking you because this is particularly a mathematical concept.
Yes, ma'am.
What
Good.
do you think? Share your opinion.
Yes, ma'am. Good.
Because the story actually hooks them to the concept of trigonometry. That is how we use stories in the class. First use of stories to hook your students to the topic. Second use, actually this is the most difficult task. You convert your topic into a story. Your entire content becomes the story. You deliver the content as a story. This is a very difficult task actually. You need to work, you need to plan, you need to think, you need to brainstorm. Then only you can do. It's not an easy thing. But if you can, that will work wonders, I'm sure. For example, we'll just go back to the slide once again. Okay, this is how it is done. Solar system. Can we tell the entire concept of solar system as a story? Can we convert? We want to teach them about the solar system where the sun there at the center and there are 8 planets moving around the sun, and each planet has got its own characteristics, features. So the solar system you want to teach as a science teacher. Can you teach solar system as a story is my question. Is there anybody who has tried that? Is there anybody who has tried that? Do you think it's possible? Can you teach solar system, your entire concept of solar system as a story? Do you think it is possible? Yes or no? Quickly drop a message.
Yes, ma'am, it's
no?
possible.
Yes, it's
Yes,
possible. Yes, it's possible. Very much possible. But we need to spend some off-stage work, homework. We can connect it as a family. Yes, Mera ma'am. We can call the son as the father or the mother. Usually we consider son as a male. So a father has 8 children. And the father is a bit partial towards, planet are sons. Yes, exactly. And the father is a bit partial towards one child, a beautiful daughter. Who is that beautiful daughter? The earth. She's very beautiful. The sun has given everything to her. And the other children, they are not happy. And Pluto was not at all happy. So the father decided to throw him away from the family. That's how why he became a former planet, an ex-planet, is no more a planet. And you can just weave a story and how Saturn has got all the rings. You just use your imagination and create a story and deliver your content of the solar system as a story in the class. Multi-sensory approach. Our children are watching you. They are listening to the story. They are imagining the whole thing happening. There is a character in their mind, sun as a very arrogant, maybe haughty, loving, the way you portray sun. There is a very clear image in their mind. Water cycle. Can we do water cycle as a story in the class once again? Water cycle. There was a small plant. The plant, if it would be easy if we connect the subject. Yes. And if it will be much easier if you try to do team teaching. If you try to do team teaching and connect different subjects together, cross curricular linkage, it will become all the more easy. So this water cycle, not this photosynthesis. And the photosynthesis is a process how the plants are making food. Usually we teach it in class 3, 4, 5. When children are actually allowed to listen to stories. So if you can convert this photosynthesis into a story, leaves are the kitchen. Yeah. And the sun one day, he saw a very weak, withered plant, little plant. And the sun wanted to find out why the little plant is so worried and weak. So the sun wanted somebody to go as a messenger because the sun was not able to go directly because the sun is very hot. And if the sun goes there, the plant will completely die. So the sun is searching for a messenger and then he finds wind. He sends wind as a messenger. The wind meets the plant and asks the plant, "Why are you so weak, my dear little plant?" And the plant says, "I'm so hungry. I don't know how to make food." Then the wind says, "Don't worry, I will help you. I will give you carbon dioxide. It is very good so that you can make food." Oxygen is actually very much in demand because human beings want oxygen. So I can't spare oxygen, but I'm ready to give you carbon dioxide, which is actually exhaled by the human being. So that is in plenty here, abundant. So you use it, and the sun said, "Okay, then I will give you my rays. You can use it as fire. You cook with the carbon dioxide." And the plant said, "I need some water to cook. From where do I get the water?" So the wind said, "See, you have got some roots below the soil. Ask them to bring water, to absorb some water and bring it." And the plant says, "Roots, you go find some water and bring it so that we can cook food." And the roots are go running in search of water. They bring it, and then the leaves acts as a kitchen. They prepare food. Can we tell it as a story? The whole process of photosynthesis. This is how you convert your entire content as a story and deliver in the class. Am I clear? Am I clear? This is the most difficult task among all the three. Okay? Because hooking with a story is actually easy. We only need to search among the stories and find one and connect it with the subject. But converting your whole content as a story needs some work from your side. And then the final use of story is to review the lesson as a post lesson activity to summarize, to sum up. That also we can find a story which is apt for our content and use. But this task needs a bit of work. Okay. Now, when you tell a story in the classroom, you are an artist. You are not only a teacher, you are an artist as well. Because that is how we promote multisensory teaching with stories. The teacher becomes an artist, a storyteller, and there are certain areas that you have to take care of when you tell the story in the class. Verbal elements are there, non-verbal elements are also there. The verbal elements are tone, your tone, the rising tone and the falling tone. What will happen if you tell, when you tell a story, if you are very much monotonous, you tell the story like this: the sun and the 8 planets, however hard I try, I think my tone will change. But if you try to tell a story in a very monotonous way, the story will not reach the children. The way with which you play with your voice has a direct impact on the story you tell. So you have to raise your voice, you have to use falling tone, rising tone, intonation, rising intonation, falling intonation, your voice modulation, the way with how you modulate your voice, the poses. Do you think poses are important in storytelling? Do you think poses are important in storytelling? Are they important?
Yes, ma'am.
You make a pose. Yes, because they are called dramatic poses. They are often called dramatic poses. The classic example, I can tell you, Mark Antony's speech. Mark Antony's speech, he made poses, and it gives the people a time to think about the words. And the most dramatic poses of all in the entire speech of Mark Antony comes at a place where Julius Caesar delivers his last words. I hope you are familiar with the drama. Many of us have studied it as a second language text in college. So I hope you're familiar with the drama Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was murdered by his senators, and they called Julius Caesar ambitious, and that's why he was stabbed. And then comes Mark Antony. He delivers a speech, and by the end of that speech, the people realizes the mistake done to Caesar, and they decide to avenge. This is, in short, the nutshell of the play. And there is a place in the drama where Caesar was stabbed by the senators from right, left, back, and front. He was stabbed. And in spite of all this stabs, his body was covered in wounds. He was bleeding profusely. But still, he was a brave soldier. He didn't fall down. He stood there in spite of all these wounds. Then suddenly there was a stab from the back. Then suddenly he was stabbed from the back. Then he turned, and then he saw Brutus standing there with the knife. And Brutus was his close friend. He considered Brutus as his guardian angel. And then he uttered his last words. You too, Brutus. Then for Caesar. Those are the last words. But if you watch professional Shakespearean artists perform this, you will have goosebumps all over your body. That pose is so elegant. Shakespeare has actually spoken volumes during that brief pause of 1 or 2 seconds. You too, Brutus. That unbelievability, that pain, that agony, that what you call that betrayal of trust. Everything is there. And then he makes a small, brief pause of 1 or 2 seconds, and then he says, "Then for Caesar. Then I don't deserve to be alive. If you have decided to kill me, why should I live hereafter? I'm ready to die." And then he fell there and died. So this is the most powerful poses. Then the emotion, emotion you use in the narration of the storytelling. That is very important. Without emotion, you cannot deliver a story. It will not reach the children. And your choice of words. Maybe you are telling the same story in grade 3, in grade 6, and in grade 11. But you have to pick the right kind of words for each grade so that the message will reach the children. So these are the verbal elements. And which are the non-verbal elements? Hand gestures, because you are imagine yourself standing there in front of your class narrating a story. How your hand gestures are very important. The way you move your hands are to complete the meaning of the story. Eye movements, facial expressions, posture, your movements, maybe front to back, back to front, side to side. Body language, your entire body language is very important. Your entire body acts as a medium through which you convey the message. So these verbal as well as non-verbal elements have to be taken care of. They have to be practiced. Then only you can become a very good storyteller in your classroom. It requires some practice in the class. Otherwise, uh, the storytelling in the classroom will not be very effective. And now I will tell you a very small technique, a very 1 minute technique that you can use to give some exercise to your throat, your voice. Okay? Small exercise, 1 minute. You can do the same exercise in the class also. So are you ready? Are you ready, my dear friends, for this exercise?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So in your right palm, you have a handful of fragrant rose petals. All of you take a handful of fragrant rose petals in your right palm. Everybody take it. You have taken? Let me put the mic down. And in your left hand, you have a lit candle. Okay? You have a lit candle. So what is there with you now? You have your right hand is full of rose petals. Your left hand, you are having a lit candle. Okay? So now we are going to give some exercise to our throat and voice. At the same time, we are going to do a small activity which can actually break the monotony of the class. Okay? All of you inhale the roses. Inhale the roses, please. Everybody enjoy the fragrance of the rose flowers in your hand. All of you enjoy the fragrance of the rose. Have you experienced that rose flowers? The fragrance of the rose? Have you inhaled? Now, blow the candle in your right. Blow the candle. Blow the candle. Repeat. Feel the roses. Blow the candle. Okay? Feel the roses. Blow the candle. What are we doing now exactly? You can call it by another name. What are we doing now?
It's breathing exercise.
Breathing. Inhale and exhale. But instead of saying inhale and exhale, we call it feel the roses, blow the candles. Okay? This is a small exercise that you can do in the class as well. It gives some exercise to your throat, your voice. This is a theater in classroom. I think Bintu ma'am is doing that session for you. It's a very beautiful concept. How can we use theater in the classroom? And this is actually a theater training activity. When these actors are trained on theater workshops, they have different activities to train them on their voice modulation, intonation, rising and falling. Because voice is a very important tool in drama, in theater. So they have to be trained to use this voice correctly. So this is one small activity used in theater training workshops. Bintu ma'am, maybe she will be telling you more. So these are a few things you have to be taken care of, verbal and non-verbal elements. Now, here we have a quote by Steve Jobs. The most powerful person in the world, he says, is a storyteller. Because the storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. This is told by none other than the iconic Steve Jobs. Let there be half an hour of story time at the end of school in primary school up and down the country. Make this the half hour they all long for, that they don't want to be over. Let the children go home dreaming of the story, reliving it, wondering about it. So this is another call. Every day, let us tell stories to our children, and then they crave for the storytelling session. They want the sessions to be never to be end, and they go back home carrying the story inside their head, and they work on the story. That is the power of the stories. Because always a child is never bored of a story. The more you tell stories, the more they want. They keep on asking, one more story, please. One more story, please. And if you are a teacher who usually narrates stories in the class, you might have all encountered that question by your students. Miss, could you please tell one story? Haven't you heard that question by your students? Miss, could you please tell one story? We all hear that question, especially if they know that you are fond of storytelling. Everybody asks this question because they want to listen to stories. They feel those stories. So our objective is convert it as a pedagogical tool, deliver our content in the medium of a story, and then children will reach out to these concepts very quickly, and they will not forget it also. They will not forget it also. And now once again, let's go back to the presentation. There are different ways of making a story in the classroom. One is chain stories. Chain stories, as the name indicates, you sit in a circle, preferably in a circle, or whichever way your classroom physical environment permits you, and then you start telling the stories. One person uh, opens the story, the initial sentence, the second person add-ons to it, and it goes like that. Okay, that is a chain story. Making a different version of fables, making a story around a few characters. Does the story end or beginning? Tell a popular story in the perspective of another character. Create stories from pictures or newspaper cuttings. Autobiographical stories, first person narration. Because autobiographical stories are the most powerful way of narrating a story, because it gives that I element, makes the story all the more emotional and powerful. So these are the different ways in which we can take up storytelling. For example, tell a popular story in the perspective of another character. We have a very classic popular example from our films. Can you tell me that film where one villain character in our Vadakkan Pattu is converted to the prospect of a hero by one of our master writers? He just twisted the story in such a way
Empty
that the villain.
Vasudevan Nair and Chandu.
Yeah, so good. MT Vasudevan Nair and Chandu. Chandu is always portrayed as the villain who betrayed his cousin. And MT gave it altogether a different version. And then at the end of watching Vadakan Viragada, we all thought Chandu is the hero. And our generation still believes it. We can never imagine Chandu as a villain, because MT has imprinted that version of heroism in our mind. And we will never think of Chantu as a villain. But the Vadakan Pate call him as the Chadiyan Chantu. So this is the power of storytelling. If you can tell a story in the right way, that imprint, that influence the story creates is everlasting. This is one classic example. And this is the same reason why our students are able to recollect the entire Bahubali or RRR, scene by scene. Because it is told based on a storyline. It's a story running as a base, and it is flavored with all these extra things like music, background, and all the other costumes, everything. So the children, they are able to retain it for a very long time. This is the same reason why we are able to recollect the stories told to us when we are hardly 4 or 5 years old. Don't you remember the stories told to you by your parents and grandparents when you were hardly 4 or 5 years old? Yes, because they have this power to remain, stay back in our brains because of the emotional appeal they create. So that is the power of stories as a pedagogical tool also. Once you tell a story of solar system or photosynthesis or water cycle or trigonometry, your child will not forget it. There will be a longer retention of that concept. They will be able to recollect it any point of time. Okay, that is the power of stories. Now, here, look at this. Using some visual clues, can we create a story? What is this? This first image. This first image is a pi, a mathematical symbol. So can you create a story about pi? so that they never forget the concept of pi. Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal, when you create, don't go for that traditional old story how Mumtaz and Shah Jahan were deeply in love, and Shah Jahan created this entire monument as a love gift for his wife. Not the same story, but a very different story. Then we have this third picture. What is this? Nitrogen, 13 elements of nitrogen, 7.5 elements of oxygen. Together they create nitrous oxide with an atomic mass of 20.5. And this nitrous oxide has another very popular name. What is that? Chemistry teachers in the house. Nitrous oxide is popularly known as
Laughing gas.
laughing gas. Vinita ma'am is the first to answer, I think. As laughing gas. So instead of telling this chemical formulae and the atomic weight and all, you just give them a situation, a story, where there is a very important, serious meeting is going on, a cabinet meeting, a war front discussion, something like that. A very serious discussion is happening among very important people, and suddenly there is a leakage of the laughing gas. There is a bottle or a refill of laughing gas kept somewhere in the room, and this laughing gas leaks into the room. And then what would be the situation? When a very important topic is being discussed, people are very serious actually, and then this laughing gas comes and everybody starts laughing. At the same time, they are trying to discuss about very important, very crucial, very serious points. What could be a situation? Don't you think your children will be able to remember this nitrous oxide and laughing gas till the day of their death if that content is delivered to them in the form of a story, a very humorous story? Don't you think retention will be much, much, much better? Everybody will enjoy. There will be a lot of fun and laughter in the class. Don't you think this is workable in the class? Yeah. Yes, you need not bother to tell them it is 13.5 and 20.5 and nothing. They will understand everything through the story itself. And it will be there in their mind forever. Okay. And onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is actually for the English teachers. I have taken examples from different subjects. This is for the math teachers, social teachers, science teachers, especially chemistry. Onomatopoeia is a figure of speech, actually. A figure of speech. Uh, the sound created becomes the verb. For example, when you put something into the water, there is a splash sound. That sound itself becomes the verb indicating that sound. That is onomatopoeia. Even though the name is very big, it looks it's a very simple thing. So if you can encourage your children to write a story with as many onomatopic words as possible, they will never forget what is an onomatopoeia. For example, the bees buzzed in the garden and the king thudded on the something like that. Okay, the entire story is full of onomatopic words, and then you ask them to read the story because in onomatopoeia the sound is important. The bees buzzed and the snake hissed and the sword swished across the air. So you just ask them to tell the story. So the sound has its play, its impact. And then there is no need for reminding them again and again what is an onomatopoeia, because this entire message has gone to them in the form of a story. Okay, so this is how we can create stories in the class. And this is another method of creating stories. Using pictures, we can create stories. Especially look at the second picture where you can see a very untidy room. A boy is lying on the bed and there is a dog sitting. The dog seems to be sleeping and the dog is dreaming about a math class, and the dog is sitting in the math class and he's acting very smart. He's answering all the questions. He's answering a multiplication question, 7 into 5, 35. And then you can ask the children to create a story according to your need. According to your need, you can collect such pictures and ask them to develop stories on this. Okay, so this is another way of creating, and only this much actually. And then one more point I want to tell is this thing. Tell a popular story in the perspective of another character. This is the end of the session. With this, we are going to conclude the session. Have you ever thought of using this technique in the classroom? Can we recreate or retell fables in the classroom? There are many popular fables with which every children is familiar. Next slide. Which slides are? Do you want which slide? One sec. This one? This one?
This one, this one.
This one?
No, no, the other one. Next one.
This?
No, just before that, thank
No,
you
no, no.
slide.
This. Yeah.
This?
Yes, yeah.
No.
This one. No, just before that, thank you slide. Whatever comes.
This one?
No, ma'am. Just before that, thank you slide.
Just before the thank you slide.
This
One.
this one.
It's not staying back. This one?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so this is the last segment of the session. How can we create fables are very popular. All of us know the fables. So how can we give a reinterpretation of the fable? That's my question. I'll give you another small example. It's already 7:20, I think. What's the time now? It's already 8:15. Also, reinterpreting the fables. I'll give you a there is a very popular fable about a hare and tortoise. I hope everybody has heard of this fable, the hare and the tortoise. What happened? Can somebody quickly tell that fable so that we can recollect? What happened with the hare and tortoise?
Slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah. Once there was a hare and a tortoise, and once they quarreled and they challenged each other, and they wanted to find out who is the fastest runner. So they decided to conduct a race. They started the race, and in between the race, the hare thought, anyway, I will be able to defeat this tortoise, so let me sleep for a while. Then he fell asleep, and he completely forgot about the race. He fell into a deep sleep. By the time this tortoise kept walking and walking, and it finished the race. And we tell the children, the moral of the story is slow and steady wins the race. So, can we give a reinterpretation to this story just to promote empathy, universal understanding, acceptance? Can you retell the story, giving a different interpretation to this very common popular fable? Is there another way of telling this fable? Because whenever I listen to this fable, I feel that there is no logic in the story. Because maybe imagine they are running a 100-meter race. The hare and the tortoise, they are running a 100-meter race. How much time do you think it will take for the rabbit to finish 100 meters? How much time a rabbit will take to finish 100 meters race? Tell me. I'm stopping sharing so that I can meet you people. I'm stop sharing. Okay, I hope I'm audible. I'm visible, right? Yes. Yes, Meera ma'am. It will take less than 5 minutes for a rabbit to complete a 100-meter track. It will take maybe a few seconds, maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes. Do you think any sensible animal will go and sleep in between the 2 minutes? Does it make any sense when you think logically? Just think in the perspective of in the shoes of the rabbit. You are a rabbit. You're going to run a race with a tortoise. It's 100 meters race. You'll take only 2 minutes to finish it. Do you think you will go and sleep if you were in the place of that rabbit? No. No, it does not make sense. It's not logical at all. Then why do you think the rabbit went and slept? What is the reason behind that sleep? It shows the hard work of rabbit and the other way around. It shows the hard work of the tortoise, and the rabbit was empathetic to tortoise. Yes, Vinita ma'am, I like that. I have an explanation for this completely nonsensible behavior of the rabbit, because the rabbit maybe felt empathetic towards the tortoise, because he has always seen this tortoise walking with that huge ugly shell on the back. He has no company, no friends. He is not included in any group. Everybody tries to ignore him, neglect him. And the rabbit felt pity. He felt empathy, true empathy. And he wanted to help the tortoise. One time at least in his life, he wanted the tortoise to feel the happiness of success, to be included, to be applauded for. And then he pretended to go and fell asleep. He just pretended that he was sleeping. He was not sleeping at all. He just decided to pretend to be asleep so that the tortoise can win the race, without feeling that the rabbit has given it for him. It is my generosity, you go, run and win. No, not like that. He wanted the tortoise to feel that I have made it, I have done it. That's why. Don't you think this explanation actually makes much more sense than the old one? Don't you think so? Can't it happen that way?
Yes,
Can't
ma'am.
it happen that way? Yes. So this is how we encourage our students to reinterpret the age-old fables in a new light, in the perspective of inclusion. Yes, the rabbit made the tortoise a hero, like our MT. From nothing, he was raised to elevated to the status of a hero who failed the rabbit in the race. That is how it works. So this is storytelling in the classroom as a pedagogical tool. I have only this much to say. I hope I have conveyed a little bit to you. And then nobody can teach you exactly how to become a storyteller in your classroom, how to become a pedagogical practitioner of storytelling in the classroom. You have to work on yourself. You have to find ways in which you can use stories very innovatively in your classrooms. There's nobody can come and teach you how to become a storyteller. You have to train yourself. But you can get many techniques, tips, tools from Google, or if you search in the net. But taking it to your classroom is absolutely, completely your duty. So this is all I have to say about storytelling in the classroom. Thank you so much for being very active, very patient, for being interactive. Thank you to Center Sahodaya Conclave Kottayam for once again having me on board, for taking such a nice, beautiful topic. Thank you so much. And
Thank
good night.
you. Thank you, ma'am. Good night. Good night.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrudula ma'am. It was really a wonderful session. Such a short and very sweet session, because we had a lot of takeaways from the session exactly. And I know, we know the power of stories when we teach in our classes. And I'm a person who started my journey with teaching chemistry through stories. So I know the power of stories. So one very important takeaway for me was the comment by Steve Jobs on storyteller. It's such a wonderful lesson which we all should know about. And another thing which I always feel is that the teacher has to be highly creative and imaginative. Otherwise, children will not accept our stories. So they are more exposed to the world and they are seeing lot of stories. So we need to be highly imaginative and highly enthusiastic about creating stories. So thank you so very much for giving such a lot of examples in each and every subject. You are an English teacher, I know, but you were correlating each and every topic to the storytelling pedagogy. Thank you so much, ma'am. If there is any kind of doubts which you would like to ask, ma'am, you can ask. It is already late. So if there is anything, you can even contact Mridula, ma'am. She's such a wonderful person who will always respond to all your queries. Anybody?
If you want, if you have any questions, which we can maybe 5 minutes or something is there anybody asking a question? Something I heard? No
Yes, ma'am.
question.
I think they are done with whatever you said, because your rendering was so easy and very very much relative. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Shoaib, can we wind up?
Ma'am, can we have your phone number?
My number?
Yeah.
I will drop it in the chat box. Is it there in the chat box?
Can't see now.
Has it come?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I prefer WhatsApp messages rather than calling, because when in school, I hardly pick the calls, but WhatsApp, I check maybe every half an hour. So, and I will respond back in WhatsApp. Nowadays, I think everybody is lazy to make a phone call. With WhatsApp, even giving the voice message facility. So, preferably drop a WhatsApp message, I will get back, or I'll drop a message back. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.